Welcome to History According to Bob. As you can see, I'm here at the Liberty Memorial. And today I'm going to take you on a tour of the outside of this building and the different parts of it. And then in later shows we'll go into each one of the 3 different museums. So I hope you enjoy today's show. Liberty Memorial, which was designed by Harold Van Buren McGonigal. I'm standing in what's referred to as the Memorial Mall, which is a quarter-of-a-mile strip of land with a road that's lined by trees that leads to the Liberty Memorial. And of course we're going to take an exterior tour of the site today. Now, McGonigal's intention was he wanted this to be during the day, as he referred to it, a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Now at night this is lit, and it is really pretty magnificent. Now when we get to the end of the show, I have some postcards from the 50s that show what it looks like at night. I've not had very good luck in taking pictures at night of the site. Now what you see here, over here to the this section right there, this is the West Building, which is the museum, the old museum. And then in the middle, we have what's referred to in the drawings as the shaft, which is actually the memorial column, which you can go up to the top and get a good view of the city. And then over here, the East Building is called Memorial Hall. And then we have our 2 sphinxes, and then the entrance to the new museum is right here. Now, when this was of course dedicated on November the 1st, 1921, and then construction begins on the project on July the 5th, 1923, and the actual opening and official dedication takes place on November the 11th, 1926, which of course is Veterans Day today, but in those days it was Armistice Day. And at exactly 11 a.m. in the morning, after the bells sounded in some of the churches in Kansas City, President Calvin Coolidge gave his dedication speech, in which, by Secret Service estimates, more than 150,000 people came to hear. So we're going to take a view of the various parts of this building. Now, the tower that you see here, the tower from the deck up, is about 217 feet. And across, if you go from the far west side to the far east side, there's a flight of steps that go down behind those 2 buildings. It's 600 feet wide, and the distance between the front of the East Building and the West Building is 154 feet. Now here we are looking to the West Building. Now both of these buildings, this is the museum building, remember, in the original concept. And then, of course, the new museum was added recently. This building is 93 feet by 46 feet. And, of course, you see the West Sphinx, which looks east. And, of course, there's the walk downward to the museum, which is now underground. Here is the West Sphinx. Now, the West Sphinx is looking to the east. And some people will say, now, why a Sphinx? Well, the 1920s is kind of a neo-Egyptian revival style. And of course, you have the discovery of King Tut's tomb, and there's all sorts of things. So this became a very popular style at the time. Now, the reason it has its wings covering its eyes is because the West Sphinx is actually looking toward the battlefields of Europe. So then, of course, this Sphinx is referred to as the Memory Sphinx. It's 32 feet long, and so it has its eyes covered because it's trying to avoid the horrors of the war. And this is a view looking towards the west. You can see how it veils itself. And then here's the West Building. Again, this is the museum. This is where the old museum would have been. It held the uniforms, the arms, the weapons, the posters. It had a library in it. It had an office, and it had a trench system that you could walk into and walk around. Now, I will do shows and take you into that building and into all of the other parts of the building. I want to do it bit by bit So we get a little bit at a time here. Now to get to the center, here's the center, which of course is the Great Tower. Now this thing all the way down into the foundation is 300 feet high, and at its base it's 36 feet in diameter. And then, as I said before, once it comes up and comes out on that deck, it is 217 feet from that position all the way up to the viewing area at the top. And at the top, the monument is 28 feet wide, 28 feet in diameter. Now, there is up here, there are 4 guardian spirits that were put in place. These are 40 feet high. They represent honor, sacrifice, patriotism, and courage. And there was a mistake made when these were put in place, because honor and courage were switched. Honor was supposed to be on the southeast and ends up on the northeast, and courage was supposed to be on the northeast and ends up on the southeast. So, you know, sometimes you do have some problems. And then again, you can see below it the new entrance to the museum, and of course the fountain, which we don't turn that one on during the winter time. This is a view from the deck in front of the tower, looking out on Memorial, the mall area there, and you can see the sugar maples that line it, which were put in there initially. Some have been replaced, some are still originals, and they have found some plaques of dedication with some of them for that relatives had put for people that they had lost in the war. Now here is the base, and you notice the lighting around the bottom of it, in honor of those who served in the World War in defense of liberty and our country. And then at the very bottom you see another little dedication stone. This is obviously the dedication stone, dedicated November the 1st, 1921. Marshal Foch, Admiral Beatty, General Pershing, General Diaz, and General Jacques, as well as Vice President Calvin Coolidge. It's interesting that Cal was vice president during the dedication, and when during this time period, the beginning of it, and then of course he is president when it's completed, and he comes to give his opening speech. Now, if you want to go up, there is actually a flight of stairs, but there's an elevator here that will take you to the top. Originally it was free, and then it went to 10 cents and then 25 cents, and you know, inflation over the years has gradually moved it up. I think it's $2 now. It's an extra part of your ticket. If you don't want to go up to the top, you don't have to. It's a beautiful view of the city, as you will see. Now this is a view from the top of the Memorial Tower looking out on the Memorial Mall. And you can see the ellipse driveway. And of course, it's a lot prettier in the summertime and springtime when we have greenery here. This is a view off to the east, which is the Hallmark Cards manufacturing area, as well as the Crown Center apartments, shops, hotels. The Westin Crown Center Hotel. There's a Hyatt Hotel down here. Then if you turn to the north, you get the full view of Kansas City. There's beautiful Union Station, which has a science museum. It has several theaters in it. I think there's a dinosaur exhibit in there, some railway stuff. There's all kinds of stuff in there. It's a really nice place to visit. And then you can see the downtown area of Kansas City. And, of course, the north park that's facing out from the memorial. And then here we are off to the west, which is a view towards Kansas. You can see the flatness of the area. That big building there, just over the edge, is the new Internal Revenue Service building, which takes up the old post office. So instead of demolishing it, they just added some other buildings and moved the people in from another part of the city. It's really nice, a nice location. Now, once you get back down again, here we are looking at the east side of the facility. And again, the building is on the east is the same size as the other one, of course, to get that wonderful architectural symmetry. 93 feet by 46 feet. This is called Memorial Hall. And it's Memorial Hall where the plaques
that list all of the people killed who fought in World War I from Kansas City, which is the main reason this was constructed. It becomes the National World War I Museum basically as a result of all of the stuff that has been brought in from people from all over the world. You know, when this was originally done, the idea was that you would have a building for trophies and such, and a building for memorials and trophies. And as people who served in the war died, their families donated their uniforms, their equipment, and all kinds of stuff. Now here is our East Sphinx, which looks west. And you say, well, why does it have its face covered? Okay, this Sphinx represents the future. And everyone knows that the future is open to no one. So everyone's vision of the future is veiled, which is why the Sphinx has its wings covering its eyes. It's really poignant looking. That's the view of it from the west looking east. And again, there's the Memorial Hall, which in the old days used to house a caisson and artillery pieces, small artillery pieces. It had a lot of maps. It had one of the tables, I believe, used at the peace talks. What the two buildings also have are these magnificent murals. And when I do the individual shows on each of these buildings, I'll show you some shots of those murals, because this one really, for the most part, most of what it has on display are bits and pieces of different uniforms of various people from the city. It really centers more on the art of the mural and the history of the construction of the site. Now this is on the north side. Now the north side is very difficult to take pictures from because the sun, going east to west, really is, this building sits right in the center of its movement across the horizon, across the sky. So unless you get there early in the morning or come late in the evening, it ends up really causing problems for photography. I mean, I'm there about 1 o'clock. And what I did was I just moved into a position that I could use the column to block the sun, but it makes it somewhat difficult to see the rest of it. Now you notice it has in the middle, there's a frieze here. Now this north side, this was not part of the original plan. This was not added until 1934. And you know how it goes. McGonigal came up with the plan, and then it starts getting in the process, and it went over budget, so they began cutting back. And then there's a big argument over who is going to do the frieze, because initially McGonigal thought his wife Edith was going to do the frieze. She was going to do one called the Procession of Civilization. Well, the committee turned it down, and it got kind of ugly. It went out into the public, and he had certain accusations. But the committee ended up picking Edward Amathus. And this relief is 18 feet high by 140 feet wide. And that central figure is cut out about 7 inches in relief. And some of the smaller figures are then at 5 inches or a little bit more than 5 inches. It's quite a spectacular thing to see. And again, his theme is war and peace. Now again, this was added in 1934. More money was provided, more money was raised to provide this particular part of it. This is one of the 2 pictures of the memorial at night, and you can see the frieze lit up a little bit better. This is probably from the 50s. We used to travel through Kansas City to visit my mother's family in Topeka and further west, and so we were always here. This is, walking right across Union Station. And of course, you'll see they light it up really well now with the new lighting system they have. Here's a postcard from the early 50s where you have the old painted version, and as you can see, it looks like, we've got the Alexandrian lighthouse up here. It's really kind of a glow. It really doesn't, it's not an eternal flame burning up there. And then you see the light on the column, and here's the frieze. And then also added in 1934, down lower in the southeast corner of the northeast corner, I should say, of the site, is what is called the dedication wall. And in it you have 5 busts which represent the 5 generals who were there, generals and admirals, representatives, if you will, of the Allies. Beatty, Foch, Pershing, Diaz, and Jacques. They're right here. That's added in 1934 too. I think the Parks Department paid for this. The street out in front now has a beautiful fountain, and of course it is called Pershing Road, after General Pershing. Then there are 2 fountains. There's one right here, the East Fountain, which has a inscription that says, who more than self their country loved, and the West Fountain over here, its inscription says, the glory dies not, and the grief is past. So this is what you end up seeing in the old photographs. It's not quite this green even in the best of times. But it was always stunning as a little kid to walk out and see the Liberty Memorial. Now this is what the city of Kansas City did during the Gulf War. During the Gulf War, we put this gigantic yellow ribbon around the middle column to symbolize bringing the troops home at some point. So this has been just kind of a little simple tour of the exterior of the facility here in Kansas City at the Liberty Memorial. And as I said before, I'll be doing individual shows taking you inside the West Building and inside the East Building, and then we'll go down into the main new museum, and I will take you through that in 2 separate shows because it is just too large to put on, on one.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that trip around the exterior of the museum. Of course, a lot of what I know is because I've lived here most of my life, but this is a book called Lest the Ages Forget, and it has the history of the building and the reconstruction and everything. And I hope you enjoyed the show, and again, don't forget to come by the website at summahistorica.com or historyaccordingtobob.com. Ask a question, leave a comment. Thank you very much.